What's up, guys? Nik Hampshire here. I told everybody that I was going to try and do a video about aromanticism, and I kind of have a lot to say about it, so let's just get into it, I guess. I consider myself aromantic. It is an orientation that means that I don't really feel romantic attraction or desire or love, at least the way that it's been described to me. I find it's often easiest to describe it while relating it to asexuality, because it's a little bit easier to, I think, comprehend for people. So like there are some people who are asexual. They're born this way. It means that they don't feel any sort of sexual desire or attraction, and they don't really take pleasure in sexual activities. On that scale, there's like a spectrum. Like some asexual people can participate in sexual activities like for their partner's sake, but they don't particularly get much out of the experience. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have asexuals that are like sexually repulsed, meaning that literally to be in any sort of sexual context makes them feel very uncomfortable. I mean, it's different for every person, but they just have no interest and really couldn't probably maintain a relationship or a sexual relationship or an aspect to that sexual relationship they need to be a part of. So if you flip that back now to romantic attraction, romantic desire, which is different, that's where I come in, and I'm more on like the repulsed side of the aromantic situation. So what that means is basically anytime that I've really pursued a relationship and found myself in like a romantic relationship, I felt very uncomfortable. I felt very unlike myself. I was unhappy, and it was strange because it was what I was pursuing. Like, you know, people are like, oh, you're just scared of commitment or something, and I'm like, I don't understand how that could really be the case. Like, I was typically the one pursuing it. Like, I would meet a partner, or, you know, I'd meet a girl who I was really interested in. She was smart, funny, you know, I had this whole checklist of things that I liked. I wanted to spend time with her. But then as I was pursuing it to, like, get to a more romantic, you know, level of that friendship or relationship, it was very unnerving. It was really repulsive is a strong word, but it kind of explains it. And it's just not for me. And, like, to the degree that, like, my longest relationship has been 8 weeks long, and that was, like, difficult. Like, by the end of that, it literally affects, like, the rest of my life. Even, like, my sexual attraction becomes, like, cut. Like, I'm just not interested in the person anymore, because I'm kind of being, you know, put into the situation that I'm uncomfortable with. And so let me take it back for when I was a teenager. It was when I really first learned about it, or no, first figured it out about myself, I guess. I was really getting into relationships. I started dating, and I was really pursuing it. But it kept happening. Like, I'd date a girl, we'd date for a few weeks, things would be really cool, but then I'd feel real uncomfortable, and I wouldn't really want to be with them anymore. I wanted to be away from them even. And that's frustrating because I still like them as a person, but I just really I just did not want to be around them. So, you know, that happened a few times, and after the third or fourth person that I dated, I was like, all right, you know what, like, I'm the common denominator here. Clearly there's something going on with me that isn't right. So I just kind of stopped dating. Anytime I did date, I made it very clear that I was more casual dater. I wasn't looking for anything serious. And that was kind of how I went into my 20s and even to my late 20s. I just kind of avoided, you know, relationships, like long-term relationships. Every now and then I would meet someone that I would really, you know, it would click particularly well, and I thought maybe I could give it a try, and I would kind of walk down that path again. But the same thing kind of happened again, and I didn't really know what was going on. I just knew that as other people have explained their dating experiences and what it felt like to be around somebody that they were in love with, I never felt anything like that. In fact, I was often feeling the opposite with people that I thought that I would have felt it. So then I learned about aromanticism, and it really all clicked. It's like I had to kind of take a step back from everything. So we're kind of conditioned early on that, you know, monogamous, straight relationships are how it goes. Mom and dad, man and woman, single partner, everybody has a person to love. Like, every story you've ever read, any movie you've ever seen, anything. It's all a TV show you've watched. Everything always revolves around some sort of romantic element. You know, there's some sort of romance involved. So we're just so ingrained, literally from day one, that like every single person is supposed to be finding somebody to love. And like even people that like are not focusing on love are still kind of acknowledging that like it is a desire of theirs. They're just purposefully rejecting it. And I'm kind of realizing now that as an aromantic person, that's not the case for me. Like, I'm not actively, you know, going towards it or rejecting it. I literally just don't care. Like, I can't really care in that capacity. And so when I realized that, I was like, oh, like maybe I don't actually want a relationship. Like, I kept thinking that I did because I'd meet, you know, an interesting woman. I was really attracted to her. We'd date. Things seemed to be cool. And then I was like, I don't want this. Like, I pursue it so hard, and then I would get it. And I know people are gonna say like, oh, maybe it's just for the chase, or maybe you haven't met the right person. But it isn't even the chase, you know. Like I've tried coming at it a bunch of different ways and stuff like that. It's not the challenge about it or anything like that. It's really just once I would achieve a particular, you know, once romance would kind of, I guess, set in, it was bothersome to me. I guess that's not. Especially what I think it really comes down to a lot of too is that because I have a difficult time connecting with people on that level, when I feel a partner connecting that way with me, I know that whatever it is that they're looking to get back, I can't really provide that. And I've even asked former partners, and they all kind of agree that they never really got that romantic vibe, like that connection, that spark that they were like pursuing or feeling for me. And that made me feel more guilty because I knew that there was something that I couldn't give to them. So that would, you know, it's like double guilt. It's like, you know, I already feel bad that I'm not feeling what I thought I would, but also I'm like kind of hurting this person that's expecting this of me, and I can't provide that for them. So that was really frustrating. And that, you know, I dealt with that for a long time in my 20s. I'm now 31. And knowing I'm aromantic is so much easier because now, like, just knowing that I'm not pursuing a relationship, that I'm not pursuing that kind of, you know, level of connection, it's just like I don't have to think about it anymore. Not that I ever did much before. I really, you know, it's funny. I've always been kind of apart from it. So even the way I looked at like other people in their relationships and, you know, people that are in love and doing these things, I just thought everybody was kind of like exaggerating or like they were kind of lying or they, you know, like it was just like, oh, this is how you're supposed to feel about love, or this is like, you know, this is how you're supposed to write about love. And, you know, like, you know, I can be poetic about things, you know, I mean, in a rap or in a poem, you like, you know, take a pencil and you wax about it like poetically. And I thought that's what everyone was doing, all these feelings called love. Come to find out, everybody was most people are feeling some form of that kind of love, and I just never was. I was like the odd man out. And so it was really interesting to kind of learn that not everybody has that same kind of passion or that kind of connection. I feel like I'm missing those kind of receptors. Like the way that I kind of like conceptualize it, I guess, is to me it's like, you know, there's different kind of loves. Like, you know, the way you love food is different. How, like, the way you love your friends, the way you love your mom, the way you love your dad, even, you know, mom to dad, it's a different kind of love each time, you know. And then when it comes to the love and, you know, romantic love or like of a partner, that's a different kind of loving as well. And I just feel like I don't have access to that in the same way that, like, say, an asexual person doesn't have the sexual desire and, like, pleasure from that. Like, I don't have that for this capacity of love. And that can be really hard for people that don't experience it to understand. I mean, even like, living with it, it was, like, hard to really conceptualize because we'd never really heard anything like that. Yeah, like, over my years, it's really how it come. And, you know, you can't prove that something doesn't exist. So people saying like, oh, well, how do you know if you haven't been in love? Maybe you just haven't met the right person. All of these are possible, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, I can't prove that, you know, that I don't can't feel those feelings, because by all means they could. But given my experience thus far, the last 16 years or so of dating, there's been nothing even remotely like it. And it's just like a lot easier. It makes more sense that this is kind of who I am and how I was born. Yeah, I don't know what else to say on that. I'm going to answer a couple questions that people had. I think that there was more to say, but I'm already at minute 8.5, so let me try and rattle these through. I know this is probably, I can't believe this was took this long. All right, let's see. Is being aromantic based on bad experiences? No. I mean, I've had good experiences for the most part, aside from like the miscommunication and hurt feelings. Yeah, no, it's just how I was born, the same way that gay people are born gay, asexuals are born asexual. Yeah, it's different. Also, quick backtrack, asexual and aromantic, in case you're unclear, two separate things. So I'm still a sexual person. I still do like go on casual dates. I do have sex with partners, but I am like very upfront about that. That's another question, actually. Let me get to that after. Would you join a polyamorous relationship, or am I interested in that? I have considered it. I mean, maybe, polyamorous relationships can sometimes work in a way where you get some things from one partner and other things from another partner. So if I found a partner that didn't need that romantic connection from me, or even like another aromantic person, where it basically would just be kind of like two friends, like living together. Like, I'm not sure if I could share a room, but I could definitely probably like live in the same apartment or something. And it's not, a lot of people wouldn't call that a relationship at that point. It'd just be friends, which is fine. I don't need it to label the type of relationship, I guess. Just, a polyamorous relationship could possibly work. I'd be interested in checking out, but I don't have a desire for a relationship at all, really. So it would really have to like be sold to me. I'd have to be sold on the idea. Do I tell partners off the bat or wait and see how it goes? I definitely am really upfront about it. I think knowing what to expect and knowing your needs and wants in any sort of relationship dynamic is really important. So pretty early on in meeting somebody, if I'm interested in them, I'll definitely ask what they're looking for and what they like or whatnot, and then I get to kind of explain what my situation is. Having a name for it, Aromantic, makes it a little bit more official, since before I'd just be like, oh, I'm not really looking for anything serious. A lot of times people would take that as like, but like maybe I could make them be more into something more serious. Not the case. By saying I'm aromantic, they get a little bit better of an idea, like this is just how I am, and they accept that a little bit better. And it's also really nice when you're upfront, because then a person can decide, okay, yeah, like I know what I'm getting into, and we can give this a go. Just as this, basically like just friends who maybe will have sex, we have a sexual relationship as well, but still are friends. Or if, some people need romance and emotions to be connected to sex, and they, and they can steer clear, like, you know what, that's not really the type of relationship that I'm comfortable with. And then we just end up being friends, which totally works too, because people are worth more than what they can offer in the bedroom, you know what I'm saying? All right, let's see. How do I approach being aromantic with a person you're getting involved with? I already answered that. Can you be in a relationship? Is it hard for a person to get involved with to understand what aromantic is? It can be hard for people to understand what aromantic is when they don't know it, and everything in media has told them that we can all feel love. So like, sometimes people think I'm lying, people think I don't know myself well enough, people think I'm selling myself short, people think that I haven't met the right person. Like, everyone always has their own opinion on what I am actually experiencing and know about myself, which is fine, but like, it can be really invalidating sometimes when someone is trying to like tell you that like, oh, love is everything in life, and like, cool, like you work like that, and that's totally fine, but you can't expect everyone to live like that. And I think that's what's really cool about our current climate, is that we're all learning that there's this whole like myriad of experiences that we can all like acknowledge, and not hold everybody to the same like rigid standard as before, which is nice. Let's see, how old was I when I realized the term? So I knew, like, honestly, from I was like 17, 18, I was pretty sure that things were weird for me, but it felt really egotistical to admit that, so I just thought maybe I was broken or had damage, whatever. My parents broke up when I was a kid, thought maybe that had something to do with it, but honestly, I don't know, man. I just felt like something was different than the way everyone else was explaining it to me. And to that effect, I think a lot of people might be romantic out there on some degree of the spectrum, and maybe just don't know enough to, like, maybe they don't feel it as deeply as me, so they're able to kind of still go out and date. Like, maybe they're not romantic repulsed, so they can date, but they don't feel that strong of a connection. And that's fine too, but again, it's something you want to be upfront about. I didn't learn about the term until I was probably 28 or 29. So it's only been like a year or two, but it felt a lot, very validating to know there are other people that experience life the same way that I do, and made me feel more comfortable, like the type of love that I am able to give. I'm still a really good friend. I really love my family and friends. It's a very worthwhile relationship, I think, to be, in a relationship with me to some degree. It's just not a romantic one, unfortunately, for those that are pursuing that. Let's see. Do you think being aromantic helps create a clearer, stronger bond in relationships because you aren't chasing the Hollywood makes relationships seem like they should be? Kinda. I guess I'm never really like looking for that. The way other people are like, oh, it doesn't feel like it should in the movies. Like, I'm really like not even like, like, oh, I do love my partner, but like it doesn't feel like it does in the movies. Like, I'm not even on that path whatsoever. So for me, I've never really compared myself to that, because I get my longest relationship's eight weeks. So like, I've never really even like thought of myself getting that Hollywood. I've never even overly been interested in it, to be honest, because without that like attraction, I don't even have that desire really to have that type of relationship. So I mean, it sounds cool. It sounds really interesting. I kind of sometimes wish I was able to feel those feelings the same way other people do, because it seems really, everyone makes it seem so important, and it's like the crux of like so many stories, and Romeo and Juliet, like self-sacrifice and all these things. It seems interesting, and I do feel sometimes that like I'm missing out on this like really deep human experience. But I see some like the ways you guys like act. You guys like overlook a lot of really problematic behavior in your partners. You guys like do really crazy things for like being in romantic love. Like, so you guys make a lot of really bad decisions to be, and like even when you're not, like, you guys, the people who are pursuing that romantic relationship, you spend so much time pursuing it, and like without that, I've just had like a lot of time to work on myself, and like, I don't know, it just seems like a really big distraction that I never had to deal with. So most times I feel pretty fortunate to be this way, honestly, but there are times when I do feel like upset or like I'm missing something, which is unfortunate. Someone asked for a pronunciation. As far as I know, it's aromantic, but I mean, it's, it's just like it's asexual. But I know that sounds just like I'm aromantic. Pretty problematic, but it is what it is. Do I find myself in situations where someone expects romantic feelings? Kinda, like everyone pretty much assumes everyone is capable of it. So, I mean, I've been in situations even when I've told people how I am, and they still kind of like get involved thinking, like, they know what I've said, but again, they become like, they invalidate it because they're like, they'll get upset with me that like I don't change for them. And I'm like, I told you up front that this is how I was, that this is like the extent of what I could offer. Like, I don't know what else to say. So like, people expect you to be able to respond in a way that they're used to. And sometimes people have a hard time like unlearning what they've already learned, like to think that every human is supposed to be like this. So that can be frustrating. I have lost relationships or friendships sometimes where people thought, a girl would think that, I would come around and then I don't, and because I can't reciprocate those type of feelings, it like hurts their feelings, and so they kind of have to leave my life, which is unfortunate, but I have to respect people's space like that. So how did I come to the conclusion? Was there a blaring obvious moment that it hit me and struck? Or was it something that I deduced over time? Like I said, pretty early on, after a few relationships, I thought that I was different. And then even into my 20s, I was pretty sure I was different. Didn't know what it was. I didn't know if it was like trauma or something that I wasn't sure, like something buried in my childhood, whatever. But it never felt like that. I didn't feel like pain. I wasn't worried about it or anything. I didn't get really anxiety. I just didn't like it. And being in relationships, that is. And then once I learned about the term, that really like sprung it, because I got to like research it and talk to other people that felt the same way. And it was like so strange to hear other people explaining their dating life going the exact same way as mine. It was just unheard of. So that was really dope. What would your ultimate end life experience look like? I mean, honestly, people worry about like dying alone or whatever. That's never been an issue for me. Like, I really like my time alone because I don't have that desire for romantic connection. I don't know. I think it's fine for me. Like, I've pretty much always concluded that me and my best friend Clyde are just going to end up playing Super Smash Brothers until we're like 80 or 85 and just going to die or something. It'll be good. It'll be fine. Sorry, I like almost had to burp, but then I didn't. So, but yeah, Clyde's like my heterosexual life mate. He's my best friend. Shout out to Clyde. Do I think that the type of hate and shame shown towards the gay community exists in a significant capacity towards aromantics? No, not even remotely. I mean, most people don't even know aromanticism is a thing. Obviously, the type of, I think being gay and the rest of the LGBT community, oftentimes people can identify it from like more than just their interpersonal relationships. So they definitely fight a lot more struggles for sure. The only thing I would say that we feel not so much hate, but or even shame. Sometimes shame a little bit. It's just like interpersonal. Like when I'm meeting somebody and I'm explaining how I feel or don't feel for that matter. People get very they invalidate me. They have all these excuses or think that I'm just like wrong. I don't know myself well enough. And that becomes like they almost feel like it's challenging their understanding of things. So never would I. And I even put that in the post the other day of my coming out post again. I would never. I'm not using this as a means to like drown out or even join their fight to say that like, oh, my struggle is the same as yours to the rest of the LGBT community or LGBT plus community. But I'm told that this is kind of like in that because my dating life or dating experience or relationship experience is apart from the norm, and so it's kind of bundled in with them. And I already use my voice to stand for their rights and equality as well. So definitely not on the same level though. How and when did you know? I already answered that. I think. Do I want kids? And if so, how would that work? I do want kids. I've always wanted to be a dad. I think someday I could work it out. I've always thought of it as like my parents broke up when I was pretty young, and they raised me, my mom, kind of as like a single mom, and my dad as a single dad to the degree that he was involved more later than earlier, but not different conversation. I think that, I always thought that I could find a friend that would also be interested in raising a child, and we could just raise them as two friends. Like, my parents pretty much did that, you know what I mean? Like, they were two friends, and they raised me, and I think I came out all right. So I don't think there's any reason why me and another friend who is, like, in a similar situation, or just wanted to have a kid with somebody that they liked, could do that. I think they'd be totally fine. So I think that that's all right. And, am I ever desperately alone? Not really. The whole being aromantic thing, as I said, I lack that desire. I don't really have that like pang of loneliness that other people seem to have. I really like my time alone, honestly, and I mean, I love being with friends and stuff too. That's great. But I never feel bad being alone either. I never really feel like I need to have a person here with me. I just don't. I don't really have that. So, all right. I think I pretty much addressed everything that I wanted to. This was his first try. I didn't edit or anything, so sorry if it comes out discombobulated or anything. If anybody has further questions, by all means, hit me up. You can also look up resources online. There's not a ton of information on aromanticism. There's a little bit more on asexuality because I think that's a little bit easier to test for. Romantic is such a, romance is such a subjective term that I think, it can be hard. People are like, oh, like what? So like, do you not like cuddling? Do you not like kissing? Like, it's kind of a case by case. It's never like the same for each person or even in the same incidents. You know what I mean? It's the same way where like you can, hug somebody one time and then like it's just friends, but then you hug them a little bit longer the next time and suddenly it feels like something special. Like you suddenly felt something that wasn't there before. Like it's really subjective. And so, I feel like being aromantic could be harder to test for and whatnot, or study, I guess, would be a better way to talk about it, but I'm trailing off. Anyway, maybe I'll talk some more if we have more questions or anything. Feel free to drop a line or anything. Sorry this video was so damn long. I try to keep it short by speaking as quickly as possible, as you could tell, but it didn't work. 21 minutes long. Anyway, okay, thanks guys. Shout out to Aromantics, Arrows for short, and everybody else in the LGBTQ plus community. Peace.